Floating barges. During World War II, floating barges played a significant role in various military operations, particularly in amphibious landings, logistical support and transportation of troops, equipment and supplies. Floating barges, also known as landing craft, pontoon bridges or floating platforms, were versatile watercraft used by the Allied and Axis powers for a variety of purposes in both the European and Pacific theatres of war. Landing craft. Landing craft was specialised watercraft designed to transport troops, vehicles and equipment from ships to shore during amphibious landings. These floating barges were essential for moving troops and supplies across water obstacles and onto enemy-held beaches, enabling the assault forces to establish beachheads and conduct ground operations. Different types of landing craft were used by the Allied forces, including landing craft vehicle personnel, landing craft tank, landing craft infantry, and landing craft support. These vessels were equipped with ramps, davits, and other mechanisms to facilitate the rapid deployment of troops and equipment in combat zones. Pontoon bridges. Floating pontoon bridges were temporary structures composed of linking floating sections on pontoons that could be assembled and deployed to span rivers, waterways or other obstacles. Pontoon bridges were used by military engineers to facilitate the movement of troops, vehicles and supplies across bodies of water or to connect land routes during military operations. Pontoon bridges played a crucial role in bridging gaps, establishing supply lines and maintaining mobility for advancing forces in both the European and Pacific theatres of World War II. These floating structures provided essential logistical support and facilitated the rapid deployment of troops and equipment in combat zones. Floating platforms. Floating platforms such as floating docks, rafts and pontoons were used in World War II for various purposes, including aircraft maintenance, cargo handling and amphibious operations. These floating structures provided stable platforms for loading and unloading supplies, repairing aircraft and conducting maritime operations in port, facilities or at sea. Floating platforms were essential for supporting naval operations, amphibious landings and logistical activities in remote or contested areas where traditional port facilities were unavailable or damaged. These versatile floating structures enhanced the flexibility and operational capabilities of naval forces and facilitated the movement of troops and equipment in diverse maritime environments. Amphibious operations. Floating barges played a crucial role in amphibious operations during World War II, enabling Allied forces to conduct large-scale invasions such as D-Day landings in Normandy and the island-hopping campaigns in the Pacific. Landing craft and pontoon bridges provided the means to transport troops, vehicles and supplies ashore and establish critical beachheads for subsequent ground operations. The success of amphibious operations depended on the effective use of floating barges, coordination between the naval and ground forces, and the rapid deployment of combat units in the face of enemy resistance. Landing craft and pontoon bridges facilitated the movement of troops across water obstacles, allowing Allied forces to secure strategic objectives and advance inland.